Hey, hello, and welcome back to Tiny House and Off-Grid Resources. Today, as you can see, it's pretty awful outside and there's not much that I can do. So what I thought I would do is spend just a few minutes giving you an example of how practical experience is an awful lot cheaper, an awful lot faster, and an awful lot easier than a college education. In my little country of New Zealand, if I had managed to find a tertiary education course on mushroom growing, I would have been very lucky for a start. It would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars and a year of my life to learn what I've learned by dipping myself in at the deep end and making all my mistakes first. Because the mistake I have here, if I'd made this mistake a few months down the track when I'm deep into production, it would cost me 2 weeks production while I shut everything down, restart, and eliminate this mistake from my inventory. First off, I want to show you what a good jar of spawn looks like. This is shiitake mushroom that has grown out for more than 2 weeks into the grain spawn. It's in dire need of transplanting into some substrate and getting to the fruiting stage. So I'll be doing that very, very shortly. But here in these jars, this is my next batch that was coming through after this. And these jars have developed, I don't know whether you can see it, but it's a sort of a smoky grey contamination that's working its way from the top of the jar down towards the bottom. You can see that the bottom, as yet, is unaffected. This jar, not an awful lot has happened. It's very quiet, but it does have that grey look to it. This jar here, you can see how once again it's fine at the bottom, heavy contamination at the top. This one is a mixture of green and grey. So with this one, I suspect trichoderma. That's the green. The grey, I don't know the name of that one yet. Here's another one where my intended species, in this case pink oyster, has started spreading well from my implant. But once again, I seem to have this contamination heading from the top down. It's clean at the bottom. And finally, this one here, this was the first one I noticed. Very grey all the way through. It's now reached the bottom because this was the first one that I noticed. So, after having this happen, it's put me back in production by 2 weeks, but it hasn't cost me anything further than that. I sat down with Anna the other night, and because she has a very scientific brain, we looked at every step and every stage of everything that I'd done and what I might have done differently to this batch here. What we came up with is that this time, to save on energy, instead of using the pressure cooker on the gas stove, I put the pressure cooker onto my wood stove and I gave it a good 4 hours. The weight on top of the pressure cooker was bobbling away the whole 4 hours. It was boiling inside, so that I know that it was reaching its 120 degrees Celsius target temp. But what happened was, after 4 hours, I let the fire die down and I went to bed and I let the grain that I'd been sterilizing cool down overnight, which is what I always do. And then I inoculate it in the morning or around 6 or 8 hours later when the jars are cool to the touch, because excess heat can damage the spawn. So the next morning I completed the transfer. And I did that in a very sterile environment. I think I filmed it. I think it's in one of my previous videos where right here I used the dry cleaning bag method, and I did it all inside a sterilized bag with sterilized hands and sterilized equipment. But still I got this contamination. And Anna and I think we've figured out where it came from. As the sterilizer cools down, everything contracts and a vacuum is formed, just like when you're canning vegetables in jars. Now, we don't seal the jars because we want the breathing during the sterilization. We want to be able to get the steam inside to sterilize the grain. So the caps are left loose and they're turned upside down so that the rubber seal is on the top and they can't seal. So that works well, except as it cools down, it's going to suck ambient air from around it into the jars. You can see where I'm going with this, can't you? So what had happened was, sitting over there by my slightly smoky, slightly dirty wood fire, it's pulled in the ambient air, which is laden with whatever it is that's in particulates of smoke, carbon perhaps, I don't know. But it's pulled in as it's been cooling down, which means that it's really, really important for me to get my laminar flow hood finished. I have all the parts I need. I will be completing it within the next day or two, and then hopefully we can eliminate another source of contamination. And that's what it's all about. Mushrooms will grow anywhere, but they'll grow better in perfect conditions. So if you can create perfect conditions every time, you end up with a reliable product on a weekly basis. So I hope that this was a little bit of help for anybody who's interested in mushroom farming for themselves. If you've discovered any forms of odd contamination that you can't explain, tell us about it in the comments below. We can have a little chat perhaps and see if we can discover what your problem might be. If you found the video helpful, why not give it the old thumbs up? And if you'd like to see more of this, consider subscribing to the channel. That way, as soon as I drop a new video, you'll be notified and you can join the rest of us in learning all about how to be a mushroom farmer.